Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Today is Saturday night, September 29th, 2018. Tonight's topic: does COMEX have enough silver to prevent a default? Now tonight we're going to look at silver. Tomorrow night we're going to look at the gold at the COMEX. And then Monday we're going to wrap it all up and talk about this concept of a COMEX default. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to take a look at the silver that is at the COMEX and how much trading is done at the COMEX, how much silver is delivered at the COMEX, and whether COMEX is in good shape or not. Before we get at it, let's just quickly review the gold and silver prices. You saw the charts yesterday. I'm not going to repeat them today. Silver closed at $14.64. That was up 41 cents on Friday. It's a big move, up 2.85%. Gold was up 11.9 to 11.92, up almost a percentage point. And the stock markets were also up. Dow Jones at a record high. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, 65.59. That's pretty much unchanged over the last 24 hours. Bitcoin Cash still holding up at 533, up about 2%. Ethereum making a bit of a move, up about 5.5% to 230. Litecoin at 61.17, up 0.5%. And Ethereum Classic up a percentage point at 11.29. Let's get at our topic. Remember, we're going to do silver tonight, gold tomorrow, and on Monday we'll wrap it all up. All right, so does COMEX have enough silver to prevent a default? Now, a lot of people talk about this, and they try to claim that the COMEX is going to default, and then it's going to be game over, and you won't be able to get silver, or you won't be able to get gold, and they're going to be set to skyrocket because of this. We're not going to do the conclusion tonight. We're just going to show you at least the silver side and tomorrow the gold side. Now, the COMEX has a series of warehouses. I think there's 7 or 8 of them. There's Brinks, Coin and Things, JP Morgan. And they all have silver in their vaults, and they either have the 5,000 ounce good delivery bars or the 1,000 ounce good delivery bars. And the 1,000 ounces are for what they call the mini contract. You don't deliver on those, but the 5,000 ounce contracts do allow for a delivery. Now you can deliver on the mini if you put 5 contracts together. That would get you back up to $5,000. So already you have a disincentive to, quote, stand for delivery when you're trading the mini contracts, because you can't. There's no delivery requirement on the mini contracts. Now, in the COMEX vaults, cumulatively, there are about, as you can see, 289 million ounces. That number was about 296 million ounces at the beginning of September. It's mostly gone down because JP Morgan has shed about almost 6 million ounces since the beginning of September. Coin and Things has actually gone up to about 42 million ounces. Brinks has about 43 million ounces. And JP Morgan's down to about 139 million ounces. Those are the 3 big ones. Now, COMEX silver is held in those eligible size bars, 5,000, 1,000. And that's the only silver that you can trade, deliver on at COMEX. You can keep monster boxes of silver eagles. You can keep 100 ounces bars at the COMEX vaults, for example. Brinks will hold on to your monster boxes, your 100 ounce bars and the like, but they're not eligible for trading, so they're not included in what Brinks reports in their COMEX eligible vaults. But you can see there are about 289 million ounces of silver, of which, ready to go if somebody so wants it, 72 million ounces, and about 217 million ounces are eligible, which means they can be pushed into the registered category fairly easily because they are in the right size and fineness, 5,000 ounce and 999 silver. Overall, about 300 million ounces. Now, is that enough silver to handle the trading? Now, some people like to look at the eligible and the registered. But when they look at the registered, they think, well, that's really where COMEX is vulnerable because that's the only silver that can actually be used to meet demand. I argue against that because, yes, if you were to run down on registered and somehow there was deemed to be a situation where you couldn't deliver, clearly those in the eligible would register some of the silver if the price was right. So I tend to look at the full amount of silver that's in these vaults. But let's just take a look how much silver actually gets delivered at the COMEX, because that's important. We're going to look at how much is traded, but first let's take a look at how much silver gets delivered on the COMEX. I'm going to show you a chart from Nick Laird, Gold Charts R Us, from 2006 to 2018. And you'll see what's traded or what's delivered monthly since 2006. Looking at the chart there, you can see most you're ever going to deliver in a month is 50 million ounces. Now, that's a lot of silver in 1 month. If you deliver 60 million ounces like they did back in 2006, that's a year's worth of American Silver Eagles. Just recently, and I think it was August, they delivered close to 40 million ounces of silver. So you do get significant amounts of silver being delivered every month, but remember, the silver comes in and out of the vaults. So keep that chart in mind. And now I'm going to show you the annual deliveries, which will take into account not just the monthly. We're going to wrap it up into annual numbers, easier to see than monthly. And you can see that there is a significant amount of silver that is delivered every month, every year on the COMEX. So 2006 was the big year, 169 million ounces. 2011, only 49 million ounces were out. That was the year the price hit the high, and looks like no one was taking delivery. I guess they figured they were going to ride their contracts. Who knows why they didn't deliver that much that year. But most years, it looks like the last couple of years, 158, 153 million ounces. Significant amounts of silver are being delivered via these contracts. Now, this year, it's 153 million ounces, probably going to be a record year, or at least the biggest year since 2006, because the year is only in September. All right, so now you see the numbers, and we're going to look at gold tomorrow. The gold story is completely different. But there you can see decent amounts of people taking delivery of silver on the COMEX. Now let's take a look at what that actually means and how much that versus trading. So this chart here is going to show you from Gold Charts R Us. They call it owners per ounce. I don't like that term, owners per ounce, because you don't really have, it's really claims per ounce. When you have a contract and the amount of the contract, you then take a look at what's the value of in ounces of the contracts being traded versus how much silver there actually is to deliver on those contracts. So what this chart shows you is a number of things. It's the COMEX warehouse registered silver stocks. Those are the bars that are registered to sell. Not only are they eligible, but they are ready to go. They can be delivered. Now, if you look, it's a little hard to see, but I'll take you through it. The second box, the first box is just the price, and you can see it goes up to $50 an ounce in 2011. This goes from 2008 along the bottom to 2018, all the way over to the right, and then the first box is just the price of silver. The second box shows you what are the total ounces of silver in open interest, 5,000 ounces per contract. And right now, the most recent report here is there is like 1 billion ounces of silver being traded, or they say 1016.78 million ounces. Now, and you can see that's pretty high. That's, the last couple of years we've seen some very high open interest, lots of trading of silver. Then the next box down is the COMEX registered silver stocks. Those are the silver bars that are good to go. And of that, we saw in the other chart, it's about 72.4 million ounces. And so what the chart shows here in the fourth box down is you divide the 1 billion ounces, or the 1016 million ounces, by the 72.467 million ounces, and you get a claim per ounce is 14 to 1. Well, that means that, obviously, the 1 billion ounces is bigger than the 72 million ounces, that if all the contracts somehow thought that they were there and had an idea that they were going to collect silver on their contracts. Well, obviously, it's not there. It's not there to a ratio of 14-1. But as you saw before, the amount of silver delivered in a given year, even in a big year, is 150 million ounces. So you never get a billion ounces delivered. And right now, the COMEX vaults have 300 billion ounces. Now, there's a 14-1 ratio at the registered when it's 72 million ounces. And it's not ideal, but it is, and it's clearly what you would call fractional reserve. But it's fractional reserve for a reason, because people aren't there necessarily. They know how much generally people, quote, stand for delivery. They know that the bulk of the traders are there are not to take delivery. Some may. Many are there to roll over contracts, to constantly make fiat profits. They're there trading for investment houses. They have no interest in taking the silver. There's also bullion dealers that are there that are shorting silver just to hedge their inventory. So the COMEX people know, the CME group knows, that it's not a circumstance where there's going to be a stampede into, quote, standing for delivery on the silver. So there's enough silver on hand. And remember, if you really want to buy silver and you have to have it when you have to have it, safest thing to do is broker to have it delivered. You could have it delivered to a COMEX vault. You can have it delivered to a private vault. You can have it delivered wherever you need to have it delivered. That's the best way. If someone who really wants to have silver, they're going to take it. But in any event, you're looking at a 14-1 ratio. Now, at one point, it had been close to 50-1 back in 2016. And that's when a lot of people were saying COMEX default and so on. But since then, we've seen a big increase in the amount of silver that's actually larger than the increase in the contracts of silver. But what I like to look at, and what the chart doesn't show, but I've made an annotation, is really, as I mentioned at the start of the show, I like to look at the total silver that's in the vault that's eligible because it can be registered. Now, when you look at it that way, and you take that 1 billion ounces or so, and you then divide it by the close to 300 million ounces that are in the vault, you're not really looking at a problem. You're looking at a, it's going to come up in a second here. You're going to see a new chart that's the same. There it is. And you can see I've overlaid the total COMEX silver stockpile is about 289 million ounces. Now, if you take those 289 million ounces, you can see they're divided into registered, 72.47. That's to the left of the third box down, and eligible stocks of 217. That gives you your 289. Now, when you divide the 1 billion by the 289, you're really only looking at a claim of 3.5-1. That's better than your bank. I guarantee you that your bank doesn't have a ratio even close to that. It's probably 100-1. I think one person can go in and try to get $20,000 and your bank wouldn't have it. So the fact that they have, you know, a 3 to 5, it's not ideal. It's not 1-1, which is what you would think would be the only acceptable ratio. But 3.5-1 is really nothing to get worried about, nothing to get excited about. Now, tomorrow we're going to see gold. It's an entirely different story. And it's not a big deal, but it's something, if you looked at, you might get a little nervous when you look at what we're going to look at for gold tomorrow. And then on Monday, we're going to go through why maybe even the gold situation isn't a big deal. But I'll let you digest that for now. That is the COMEX warehouse total holdings. Remember, it's split into a bunch of different warehouses. Those are the aggregate numbers. Then I showed you the COMEX deliveries of silver. And then I showed you what the open interest contracts are worth compared to or divided by the amount of silver they have, both eligible and registered and in total. All right. See if we got any questions, and then we'll pick it back up tomorrow night when we look at gold. Cody Michigan says, just in time. Yes, indeed. You were first. Carl Joseph DeMarco says, hello. Late start tonight. Must be because it's Saturday. No, I was watching the Trump rally, I guess, in West Virginia. Bogus Fiat's checking in. Hello. Alan Wheeler says, sup. Alan Wheeler, gotta put stacking on home, gotta buy a new car. Okay. COMEX, Carl Joseph DeMarco says, does COMEX even need any silver? Yes, because they have a delivery option. Now, I argue that most of these traders, they wouldn't even care if there was silver there or not. They're just there trading the price. They could trade around a pile of 1 ounce or 2 ounce or just one 5,000 ounce bar. And if no one wanted to take delivery, I don't think they'd care, as long as they got their fiat profit. Alan Wheeler, I spent all day looking at Ford stock because I have a funny feeling about a BAM 3-car accident. Ooh, sorry. No, I was not at fault, so I'm looking. Oh, sorry to hear that. Bogus fiat. When can I buy a house with 500 ounces of silver? LOL. Yes, you're part of the greatest wealth transfer that'll happen from 2010 to 2020 in the history of mankind. Tomorrow, Andrew says. Yes. Greetings, says Max Strong. Bob Silver, been buying silver ever since it hit 14, loving it. Yeah, that could turn out to be the buy of the year, because I remember earlier this year it was at like almost $18 at $14. The issue with buying silver, though, is if you're paying $2 premium or $2.50 premium on an Eagle, it's got to go to $18 again before you even make your money back, because you're going to pay $16.25, $16.50, $17 for those Eagles. But yes, indeed, and that's why people will trade contracts, or they'll buy. If you bought the ETF shares and you're looking to make fiat profits, then you'll get, when it goes to 16, 17, you'll get your profit. Whereas if you have a physical, you have to wait for it to exceed the premium. Harvard expert, says Alan Wheeler, say gold to $400 soon. I had, it was a few years ago, and I went out and I got the Muppets little figurines. Let's see if I can find that for you. And the pet rock, and I had them all standing around the pet rocks, admiring it. And it's going to be hard for me to find this, but if I can find it, I do want to show it to you. Let's see if I can find it. But in that article that I did, I had the experts there. They were predicting gold prices, and these weren't from the Gold Pumper crowd. These are just I had the medias and the investment houses like Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and then I had like professors, and they all had like these predictions, and there were these experts. Let's see if I can find this. And these experts were saying that gold was going to go to $400 an ounce. This was like back in 2010 or 11. I mean, yeah, maybe one day it'll be $400, but when you make a prediction like that, it's 8 years later or 6 years later and hasn't come true. I mean, I think the prediction is useless. I don't know if these are the same guys making a prediction. I'm having trouble pulling that thing up there. I'll try to find it for tomorrow night. Let me get out of here. See what's going on. Cancel. No, hope we're not. No, we're still on. Okay. All right. Well, if that's about it, we will see you again tomorrow. I'll try to be back on at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Oh, the article out was on SD Bullion. I'll check that out. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you're interested in buying bullion, not investment advice to do so, but you can do so through the Smaulgld links. And Smaulgld gets a small commission, so please check that out. I'm going to leave you the links right now. First, it's Golden Eagle Coin. Let me give you those. And there's Golden Eagle Coin. Then there's Money Metals Exchange. And they have some decent content once in a while on their, I think it's like a blog or something. And then SD Bullion, of course. You can check them out. And you can compare pricing and shipping at those sites. And Smaulgld gets a small commission, not investment advice. But if you're going to buy, pay no more, no less than if you visited those sites directly. All right, what else? I wonder, Chuck Morris says, I wonder much silver, i.e. if total supply disappears annually manufacturers of other consumer goods. Much less so now than far less than it used to. I did a report on this once. Samsung, Apple, they have very large reclamation projects, not just to get the silver out of their electronics, but also to get the gold, the platinum, palladium, or whatever else they have in it. They have machines now. You get the phone, it rips off the thing, it knows exactly where the gold, silver is on the display or the motherboard, pulls it out, throws it. It's all automatic, throws it into things, they melt it down. They do reclaim a lot of it, of gold and silver. what else did I want to say about oh, the other thing is there's not as much silver being used in electronics as there used to be. In 2010, 310 million ounces were used in the production of electronics, but in 2017 that number is down to 230. And the rationale for that is not that they're substituting silver. The electronics are smaller. They're selling fewer. They're selling more laptops, even fewer laptops, more handheld devices, so less silver is being involved. I just said that the COMEX is a crooked casino. They do not default because they can just cash you out and your paper is made worthless. Yeah, that's true, but they're rarely in that position, as you can see by the amount of silver that they have here. And I used to think that it was. It's what COMEX I think is a problem is how they allow position limits to exceed, and that it's not regulated when you see these big drops in the price of silver because of naked shorting. I think that's the issue. I don't think it's because they don't have enough silver there or that they're running it in a criminal way. But they do have enough silver. I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is when you see these big drops all at once, and it happens both in gold and silver at the same time. Now, the reason they're able to get away with that, and in some respects, it's not even COMEX's fault. It's almost the law's fault. Because either there's scenes where they could say, someone is saying they're acting on behalf of the government, you can't get them in trouble. But generally, it never even gets to that. That happened like 15 years ago where I think Barracks made some type of argument like that. The issue I have with the naked shorting is, or the legal issue is, courts are not going to say, they're going to apply what's called the business judgment rule. And they're never going to say, well, only an idiot would dump that much silver on the market and lose money. They don't do that. They figure if you want to lose money, have at it. The courts are not there to second guess business decisions. So if somebody wants to make an uneconomical trade and bring the market down, they bring the market down. That's the problem I have with the COMEX. It's not because, yes, I'll get to that in a minute, Michael Fowler. It's not because they don't have enough silver there. I mean, they know how much silver they need to have, and they seem to have. But tomorrow we'll see if gold is a different story. Michael Ruse, they write the laws. Yes. Michael Fowler, are missiles consume silver, don't they? Yes, they do, but the amount of silver, I have another article on that. I have what's in an intercontinental ballistic missile, what's in other types of missiles. You're talking about, I think it's 200 or 300 ounces of silver in an intercontinental ballistic missile. You're not talking about hundreds of millions of ounces of silver that is going to be used in missiles. I think one of the mistakes that silver pumpers make is when they tell you all the different uses of silver, but they don't back it up with how much silver is used in each of these applications and then add them all up. Sure, there's a lot of places where silver is used, but there's also a lot of places where copper is used. There's a lot of places where a lot of things are used. You have to know how much is being used and how does that compare to the actual supply. So when you say, well, there's all these medical applications, they're using nano silver, yoga pants, they don't use that much silver. The big uses for silver are investment, coins and bars, jewelry, solar panels, and electronics. Anything after that, it's all de minimis. It's small amounts, 1 million or 2 or 3, 4 million ounces here and there out of 800-900 million ounces of supply every year, plus whatever's in stockpile. So when people tell you, well, it's used for this and it's used for that, and they're finding more uses all the time, yeah, but they're not finding uses. They're going to take 40, 80, 100, 300 million ounces a year. Yes, Tom, about 500. I think it's a little less, but that's right. But it's not a significant amount. It's not going to be 80 million ounces a year, 50 million ounces a year. And even if it was, that's still, but it's not that much. And electric cars, yes, we can go through what I would like. I've already done it. But what you guys should do for your own benefit is go through all these uses for silver and do your own back of the envelope of how much silver is used in them. Add it up and then come back to me and show me that, wow, look how much silver is being used. We're never going to have enough silver. You don't get to those numbers. They're not that high. Opinion, please. Is it prudent to pay more for 999 versus 999 purity? No, because whether you, this is my opinion, this is an investment advice, but anytime you buy nines, it's a preference, because when you buy an ounce of silver or an ounce of gold, you're buying an ounce of pure gold and an ounce of pure silver. It's the alloy that they mix it with. So for example, a 1 ounce American Gold Eagle coin has 1 ounce of 9999 gold. However, the coin itself is 9167, which means that you have an ounce of gold, but the coin is slightly larger than an ounce because it's mixed with a little copper and it's mixed with a little silver. So that's what the 22 karat ounce, but you still have an ounce of gold. Now, people like to buy the 9999 gold. It's softer, it's purer, and then some people say they're soft, that they get ruined more easily. Whenever you have an alloyed coin on gold, it wears better. But you don't have a pure coin. You have a pure ounces of gold, but you don't have a pure coin. Now with silver, I don't know if it's any different, whether it's 4 nines or 3 nines. I don't even know if you can tell the difference by looking at it. I don't think it's any. But you know, the American Silver Eagles are slightly, they have a little copper in them, whereas the Canadian Maple Leaf doesn't, from what I understand. But again, both of them have an ounce of pure silver. Nomadic Giant is here. Still working on your books. I'm going to get back to you and have you on the show. Roger Henley. Bix Weir said, soon you can buy a Tesla car with a few Litecoins. Our Tesla's going to go down to like, what, $1,800 or something? I don't know. He's a big fan of the Litecoin. All right. Michael Ruiz. He says, after listing all silver uses, in 1980 was almost $50. 40 years later, dollars devalued ridiculously, and yet silver is less than a third of the $50 price. I had done a show on that, and there's a blog post I've done when I showed all the different prices of things in 1979, 1980 during hyperinflation, and pretty much everything is more expensive today than it was in 1979, 1980, except silver. And that's the biggest argument for silver right now, is just, I mean, it's not like they found, so much more silver. They're mining like 10 times more silver than they were. No, on a relative basis, yeah, they're mining more. They used to mine 400, 500, 600 million ounces a year. Now they mine 800 million. But the demand has gone up. And yes, they lost the photography demand, but that was replaced by electronics. And the investment demand is much higher today than it was during that time period. I mean, if you strip away the Hunt brothers. So yeah, it's really it's hard to explain the low price. Bogus Fiat. The Royal Canadian Mint 10-ounce bars are 4 nines. Yeah, and the Royal Canadian Mint tends to have more purity on the gold side as well. All right, well, don't forget to get your Smaulgld mugs. Remember, the Smaulgld Classic and Super Classic mugs are available from the website, and those are the ones that I ship directly. I've seen many people on here who have already purchased their Smaulgld mugs, and some of you know I also throw in a Smaulgld Game Changer eraser with the Classic and the Super Classic mugs. Shipping is included in those. And if you want the travel mug or the espresso mug or any of the other Smaulgld products, you have to order those through the Smaulgld store, and they're shipped directly from the manufacturers. T-shirts, mouse pads, some nice items. They help out the site too. What you're seeing on your screen though is the Classic mug is at top. There's prints on both sides, the Smaulgld logo on both sides. The Super Classic is below. It's all red like that on the inside. It's only, basically, it's a larger logo and it wraps around the side there. So, Smaulgld mugs are real money. You might want to check out, go to the top and listen to 18 reasons to buy a Smaulgld mug. And also consider becoming a Smaulgld patron. I'm now up to about 13 patrons. Very grateful to them. And then also you can go to PayPal and donate there. I do appreciate PayPal donations, although I don't appreciate some of the things that PayPal does. How will the miners stay in business at $14 an ounce? Okay, let's handle that question. That's something I've been following for a while. Now remember, silver miners, they do have difficulty, but most silver miners are not really silver miners, and most of silver is not produced by silver miners. So let's break that down, Charles. So I think 70% of the silver that's mined as a byproduct of copper, tin, lead, and even gold, other precious metals. So they, in some instances, they don't even account for how much silver on their balance sheet, because the amount of these very large mining companies will produce significant amounts of silver, but when they're producing massive amounts of maybe gold or lead or copper or tin or aluminum, whatever it is, they don't even break out the silver, but there's still a significant amount of silver. So that silver will get mined as long as base metals are being mined or gold is being mined profitably. So it's not as dire for the supply situation, but it is dire for companies that are closer to being pure silver mines. Now, some of the pure silver mines, I'm not going to go through them all today, but even the ones that were really silver, they weren't ever 100% silver mines. They were still 60, 55%, and they would call themselves silver mines. What a lot of them have done recently, they've seen maybe now they actually produce larger dollar values of gold. So what they're doing is they're calling it equivalent silver ounces. They'll take the value of the gold and they'll say, well, we're making this many ounces of silver, and at 86 to 1 or 83 to 1, it can look like they're producing more silver, but they're not. So the way that the silver miners continue to stay in business at the low silver prices, Charles, is they're actually producing other metals, and it's usually gold. A lot of the Mexican mines are also, the silver mines are also gold mines. I think, and I don't want to be quoted on this, I think that First Majestic, even First Majestic has some gold as well, but I think they were one of the purest silver mines. But First Majestic, in the grand scheme of silver mining production, isn't, it's certainly not 10% of overall silver mining production. It's all those silver mines that you hear about, they're relatively small. It's in the aggregate that you get a lot of silver, not from the primary silver miners, but from all the other secondary mining. So it's more of an, and that's probably why you're seeing an issue with the price of the silver miners, is because, yes, at $14 an ounce, some of them have costs around there, and it's very difficult for them to continue to mine at that price. But it's not necessarily going to translate into a lack of silver on the market. But Roger Henley, Bix Weir, says there's hidden technology coming out that uses massive amount of silver. Only he's, yeah, well, again, if there is, and that would be, I don't know if there is, and I don't know if he knows there is, but it doesn't matter. If there is a technology coming out that uses massive amounts of silver, then that would have an impact on the supply-demand dynamic. But one thing that we have noticed over the years with silver, whether it's for solar panels or electronics, they get into thrifting and they figure out how to use fewer ounces of silver per whatever they're doing. So one of the things about silver demand is you can't extrapolate that in 1999 X amount of ounces of silver were required in a solar panel, and then say when if solar panels grow 100x from 1979 that we're going to need 100x the amount of silver that we needed in 1979. No, because probably by 2030 they will have figured out how to reduce the amount of silver required in a solar panel in 1979 by maybe 90%. And they might be using almost the same amount of silver, even though demand has gone up tenfold, you know, than they were 15, 20 years ago. So that is a trend that happens. They use nanoparticles, they use different pace, they thrift, they figure out how to do it. And in some instances, if the amount of silver is required, they start to figure out ways to substitute. Now, there is no substitute for silver. Silver and gold both have unique properties that, and platinum too, that you cannot substitute. So for example, platinum is the densest metal on the planet. You cannot get any denser. You cannot counterfeit platinum because it's so dense. You can counterfeit gold because it's about the same density as tungsten, and you put gold plate on it. Okay. So there you go, platinum. That doesn't mean that platinum is unique in that you can't substitute for it, though. It just means it's the densest. Palladium's not dense really hardly at all, and it's a substitute for platinum. Gold doesn't tarnish. Gold is inert, okay? Gold is, in some instances, I would say for space electronics is indispensable because it doesn't tarnish and it's forever. But the demand for that stuff is not that great. It's great, but it's not, billions of ounces. Silver is unique in the fact that it is by far the most reflective and the most conductive metal, but copper is conductive, and you can substitute copper for silver. Aluminum is reflective, maybe not as much as silver. So while they're unique, the precious metals are unique, there is no substitute, for a gold ring. There is no substitute for, if you want the best conductivity for electronics, is silver. But that doesn't mean you cannot use, and they will use other metals so it's not like they're going to have to use silver even if silver got to a certain price. For example, gold, they don't use gold as much as they otherwise would because of the price. Gold would be used in far more industrial applications. It's just not worth it. So I don't count on silver getting to be so indispensable in industry that they'll pay any price. Now, since they use small amounts of silver, then in the case of a phone, the amounts that they use are not that much. They're already charging $1,100. They probably won't raise the price. They'll suck it up and pay $40, $50, $70, $80, $90, $100 an ounce before they even think about switching. Which metal is lowest in supply on Earth? Well, I don't know what the rhodium or palladium numbers are, but they're certainly rarer than the platinum, and platinum is certainly rarer than gold, and gold is certainly rarer than silver. Bick says there's gold in the Grand Canyon. He has some theory on that. I don't know what... I don't know. I've seen him go through it. I've seen Steve St. Angelo go through it and say it's not true. I haven't looked at it. See, when I look at something, I can tell you whether I think it's true or not, but I haven't researched it. It doesn't sound right, but maybe there's something there. I don't know. When I research something is when I'll tell you I don't think it's true, but I don't know anything about the Grand Canyon. I haven't researched enough to tell you it's not true. It doesn't sound true, but for every ounce of lead you get some silver. That's a good... Does Bix communicate with aliens? His mates remote view them. Then they make songs about Litecoin. Which metal? Okay. Roger BF. Silver kills werewolves and vampires too. We may need it to clear out the swamp. Oh yes, rhodium. That could be. Yes, palladium is pretty scarce. Scarcer than I'd done a platinum research blog post, and I found that annual mining of platinum is 10 times less than gold, and even more so today. Platinum is only found in a few countries, and the major countries are South Africa, Russia, and the United States. It's not, they only really recently discovered it, in the late 18th century. Charles says, I'm a chemist, there's no substitution for silver. Yeah, silver as silver, of course, it's unique. But you can substitute silver to conduct electricity. You can substitute silver to make coins. That's my point. It's not that... I'm granting that metals have the unique properties of which there is nothing else. Unique means there's only silver is silver. There's nothing even remotely... There's stuff like silver. Just like palladium is like platinum, but it's not platinum. But anyway... We're splitting hairs here. Charles Bruce, in an economic depression recession, miners go down, don't they? Probably, because you would think that a miner is no different than any other stock, and the only stocks that I understand go up in depressions are your counter-cyclicals, like your tobacco and your entertainment stocks maybe, or your liquor stocks, stuff like that. But generally, if there's a slowing in economic activity, you would imagine that miners, they're not going to be needed to mine minerals in order to make heavy equipment, industry, and so on. So that's probably right. Silver as a safe haven will go up. Not necessarily. Depends on... See, silver has less safe haven by far. I don't know if you've seen, Charles, the videos we've done showing, at least historically, silver has not been the same store of wealth, safe haven that gold has been. Not even close. So I don't know. I mean, if 70% of silver is a industrial metal, it's more likely to go down. Only 10% of gold is. So it's more likely to be brought down by a depression. Now, it depends on what caused the depression. If the depression is one that is because of a monetary collapse, well, then silver would go up. But if the depression is just because the economy slowed down and it's really bad, I don't know if that makes silver more valuable. It appears we're headed for a shortage or a possible shortage. You know, I've heard that a lot. It's hard to get accurate numbers. You look at the Silver Institute numbers, you look at the Reuters, you look at the different numbers, and they talk about these deficits. Each of them, no matter how they calculate, they show that every year there's a deficit. And that doesn't make sense to me how there's a deficit for that many years. You would think the price would go up. But if there's a deficit, it must mean that the silver was found somewhere. So either there's silver we don't know about, but I would think if there was a shortage, it would start to show up in the price, and it hasn't. Okay, let's see what else we got here. More questions. Cody Meshigod. I agree with ASMR. They would have to use a lot more material if they decided to substitute silver to match the performance. Yes, but remember, you're not going to substitute silver if you're not using that much of it or it doesn't cost that much. But there does come a point, and this is where innovation comes in, if the price rises so much, they may not even abandon, they may not switch and use graphene or something else. They'll figure out how to use less silver. So it's, as I said, what happened in 1979 or what they did in 1999 or 2005, science and technology figures out either how to make silver go further or to figure out what substitutes might work better or at least good. Yeah, miners are pretty low already. Majestic Silver appeared on the usual red pill pumping channels. It was bragging how great First Majestic was, but not so great. Yeah. Soros bought ABX. Soros also bought a platinum mining company. It was like $25. It's like 18 cents now. Michael Reese, if depression is serious enough, would governments nationalize the miners or the mines themselves? I don't think a depression... Oh, okay, hold on. I was going to say, I don't think a depression would cause nationalization. I think what you're asking is, if the mines shut down because of a depression, then would they nationalize them and run them? Now, you know what the answer is in China. They would run that at a loss. They wouldn't care. And yes, I mean, if Trump was president, and he is now, I mean, he has said the reason that they're, in a sense, subsidizing the steel industry, not really, but by putting tariffs on steel, is because they view that as a national security issue. And so if they needed to get silver or any mineral and the mines weren't working, well, then that definitely would nationalize, or they would subsidize the mines to produce the amount of silver. Now, you know what's interesting? I did a report on this about maybe 6 months ago. The U.S., I don't know what department it was, put out a list of essential minerals. And it included copper and all these different minerals that they thought had to have. And if the United States didn't have, then there would be a problem. It was for planning exercise. They didn't have silver on the list. ASMR people, yes, you can substitute silver in terms of mirrors or conductors. The chemistry, on the other hand, copper is no substitute. Yes, again, in certain places there is no substitute, and again, that's what unique means. Roger Henley, I think it was Cliff High's webbot fiction that predicts flying cars that all use silver, and Bix Weir, the webbot salesman. That's where it comes from. You've never heard of Wishbot, have you? You got to go back and listen to Valley Low. Valley Low knows all about Wishbot. He's created Wishbot, and it really works. All you got to do is wish about it. Send me some money, and then I come up with a prediction, and then you believe it, and then you send me more money, and then everyone says, "Look, a Wishbot hit." You got to go back. You Google Valley Low on YouTube. Very interesting character. I even interviewed him. Valley Low. You said my last name correct. I won't even try that one again, Cody. ASMR people, you're right. It would be my job to find a substitute for silver, and I'm pretty good at my job. Yes, there is no substitute, but there's things close for certain things. But if it absolutely has to be silver, then it has to be silver, obviously. Flying cars meet George Jetson. Right words. Goldman Banker took on ABX, and they now have Rand Gold. You know, that was another thing I was on, I think it was Wall Street for Main Street like 2 or 3 years ago. And what I suggested was that they wouldn't go out of business. This is when the price was going down then, too, before it rose in 2016. It must have been a 2015 interview I did. It's in the playlist on the Smaulgld channel. And I said, well, what might happen is, you know, the banks will end up owning these miners because they won't be able to pay their debt, and they'll just take them over. So instead of the government taking them over, the banks might take them over. Who knows? All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And please check us out or me out on Twitter, Gab, Minds.com, Steemit, Facebook, Google+, and, of course, Smaulgld.com. What I do at the end of all of these videos, all the charts you might have seen, I put them on the blog post the next day with the video so you can watch it again. You might have missed something, but you can also, you don't have to go looking for the chart because you just scroll down on the website and you'll see the charts. So every night there is a, or every day after every night, I post a quick summary of what we talked about and the video and then all the charts. So please check that out at the Smaulgld.com. Also, subscribe to this. Just click subscribe and then hit the, you want to receive the notifications. The best place, the best thing to do. I don't know why people don't do it. I mean, being on YouTube, this could go away in a moment's notice. We've seen channels being taken down. I don't expect to be taken down, but you never know. Always best to have the Smaulgld subscription or email. And I don't email every day. I post every day, but I email pretty much, unless it's breaking news, like I get the Russian numbers in or something. I don't send out every blog post. I send out the week in review. So please go to Smaulgld.com and sign up there to get those. And then, you know, you can email me from there. It's a lot easier to stay in touch. And these live streams are very spotty. As people who come every night know, half the time I'm talking and the next thing you know, the stream gets cut off. So please check out Smaulgld.com. And remember, you get your mug there. And then also check out the Smaulgld channel. And you can see the 18 reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Good night, everyone.